Let me say a few words concerning international trade. I'm painfully aware of the importance of beef in Northern Ireland. That was one of the elements that we discussed last week when I had the privilege to go to the United States, to Washington, to lobby for you, for European agriculture when it comes to the famous TTIP negotiations. The negotiation round last week took place in New York, and we also took part in the stakeholder event. My director in charge of trade took the floor on Thursday when we had our own internal Presidia meeting in Lisbon. So we contributed, and we were the only European stakeholder present in New York. And what we raised was, for instance, very concretely, our access to the US market and the US authorities' recognition of the safety of European beef. And when I say European beef, I mean that all member states and the quality and the safety of the product being recognized. That's one example. But then, as you know, beef and the market access for beef and its recognition is only one part of the package. The reason, and the real reason for us that we went there, was that we wanted to keep the process alive, not because of the outcome, not because we accept fully what is going to come out of the process, but because of the fact that we need to take a look into the hand of the Americans, what sort of cards they're playing, what sort of cards can we play together later, especially in WTO. This is really important for us. If we don't create this alliance, like we did with Canada, hopefully we should do the same with Japan. We should reach for a deal with the United States. If it's acceptable, that would give us a better chance to get a fair deal in the multilateral trade negotiations in WTO. This is why we went there and we pushed for it. We had some tough talks with the US administration, Obama administration, Congress, Senate, and some of the stakeholders. I also raised, especially with our stakeholders, the fact that we are going to organize North America European Union conference next October here in Northern Ireland. And I suppose you have a bad reputation, a good reputation in the United States, depends how you look at it, because none of them had the guts to refuse when I invited them. So we are looking for good participation from the United States delegation, and we hope that we have frank discussions with our colleagues in the US side how to develop our mutual trade, how to take into account our specific characteristics of our production, so-called European standards of production. And when we drove here, we discussed the different types of production in Europe in agriculture. And especially when we talk about beef, let's take that as an example. We have probably more than 28 different models of beef production in Europe. How to make sure that at least most of them will survive. And that is a big challenge for us. And that's also why we are so active with the international trade talks. We have to defend also in addition to our access to third countries, we have to defend the European way of producing food. I come from quite close to the Russian border in Finland. I only have about 100 kilometers, a bit further than a modern artillery would take the ammunition. I've served my share in Finnish military, so I'm painfully aware of the tensions in the eastern borderline of the Union. But more importantly, the tensions were created by the fact that we couldn't trade with the Russian consumer market. We lost, my native Finnish dairy producers lost more than 200 million euro worth of trade because of the Russian embargo. Baltic states lost more or less the same proportional volume. Poles, Danes, Dutch lost the same. This is another, let's say, reason for us to be so active, to seek for alternative markets for our produce. In August last year, when the Russians informed us, European Union, they will set up the embargo, the first reaction from our organization, together with the Commission representatives and other stakeholders that we coordinated across ourselves, was that we are sorry to see a major client leave, but we are confident that the high-quality European agricultural food produce will find new markets, new consumers that we can sell this produce to. And this is exactly what we think even today. It's not necessarily that it affects all farmers, not every one of you directly. This is not the purpose. But the purpose is that it provides some alternatives to some of your colleagues in other member states, in other sectors. And that gives, once again, alternatives to those farmers and eases off the pressures that you are facing at the marketplace, gives better prospects for your produce, especially in the supermarkets, keeps control on the supply, gives alternative to our operators in finding new markets, other markets than our oversupplied European common market. And in this respect, we have been very active, also not only in the TTIP, but we have been pushing for the Japanese trade deal, possibly also, I should say, against some of the other industries. Because surprisingly, European automobile industry is not that keen to see a free trade deal with Japan, because they feel that they are not competitive enough. We feel that for once it's an offensive market for us. We have offensive interest to the Japanese consumer market. We could sell a lot more high-quality European beef, dairy produce, wine, processed goods in general. Japan is equivalent to Canada or United States in a sense that it's one of the major markets. Of course, we have a multitude of other bilateral trade deals that we have been working on, and we certainly push for the same direction in these areas. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by coming back to what I saw when I came here. This is a time of the year that I feel, I desperately regret that I took my path as Secretary General of Agricultural Policy Operator in Brussels. Because this is the time when you see and feel the growth, the new prospects of European and Northern Ireland, Irish agriculture. It's about when everything is starting to grow, everything is green and lush. You may have had a cold spring, but in my eyes, that cold green pastures perhaps now, they are a promise of good prospects for our sector in future. I'm confident that Northern Irish agriculture, your produce, would have better prospects in future, and we are definitely in COPA COGECA interested in defending your interest and make sure that you will have better future for yourselves and your families and for young ones.